years' time who will do 6 in a row or 7 in a row. Why not, while you have this maybe once in a lifetime set of players, the likes of Cluxton, if he'll stay on, 1 or 2 others, why not set the target of 6 or 7? Because someone's going to break it eventually.
Well, part of the interest in that is that we don't know that much about Jim Gavin in terms of his personality. Like, Jim Gavin could be sitting at home laughing at all this conversation. He might well be sitting there going, I won't rest until we win 10 in a row. Like that might well be his mindset, that actually, I'm a young man. I love this job. I mightn't show it, but I absolutely am obsessed with this job. And I'm in a position that I can pretty much keep it for as long as I want. I have the best talent, the best resources. Why would I step away? Like, he may not feel the pressure. I know, I'm sure, listen, it clearly takes a huge amount of his time, but he's also, I would say, better placed than anybody in the country to manage his time. He's clearly so methodical that I'm sure he can work that home balance. So it may well be in his mindset, as you say, because I do think that dominance will continue. So they're the first county ever to win 7 All-Irelands in a decade. That's sort of the minimum requirement now for Dublin. That actually, there'll be an expectation that Dublin will win 6 or 7 of every 10 All-Irelands because, as you say, of the shift in demographics. And unless there's some sort of radical sea change in Gaelic football that we can't foresee right now. So, you're right, maybe 5 in a row is sort of standard. So, like, best case scenario, we're looking at it right now for Gaelic football, if you're outside of Dublin, is that they get caught in the semi-final or final by Kerry, by Mayo, Donegal or Tyrone. That's it. That is next year's championship, and that's the following year's championship. A one-off, Kerry put themselves in a position, just couldn't kick on. Why couldn't they kick on? Because Dublin strangled the life out of them, as they did again yesterday when Kerry are trying to force their way back into the game. So they're an unbelievable team. Every time you go and watch them, you sort of forget about the resource conversation for a little while and go, oh, just the talent, the enthusiasm. And yesterday's game was a brilliant game. Like, that first half, 20 scores in that first half. Like, Dean Rock didn't kick it free for the entire game. That 145 at the end, like, was insane, the quality. And for anyone who hasn't seen it, it was obviously 10 points apiece at half time. All the big guns stood up in that first half. The difference probably was Merchant's goal and Kerry's big names in that second half. Gainey, Clifford, Moran just couldn't really impact the game. Dublin got on top of them. Clifford didn't see half as much ball in the second half. Gainey, as I say, his head just seemed, maybe, again, it is, we do keep bringing this up at the last 15, 20 minutes. Dublin obviously mentally just destroy you, that you're shattered. Like, Gainey doesn't make those sort of decisions in the first 10, 15 minutes, but it was brilliant, and like, you could see what it meant to the players as well. It was interesting, being around the city after the game, just chatting to Dublin supporters about what it meant, and they enjoy the 5 in a row. They are very honest of, actually, aside from the All-Ireland final, this is no fun for us either. They were talking to a couple of lads about going up to the Tyrone game, and they're like, literally, the only reason we're going is because we need to go for our season ticket so we get our ticket for the All-Ireland final. But you're not going up there with any sense of, yes, Battle of Omagh, and I know the way it had worked out. But they're missing out on more than just 1 day or 2 days. So, where does it go?
We'll talk to Kieran Donaghy and Ross Munnelly in about 15 minutes' time. As you said, the first half was electric. Dublin start with 5 points from 5 shots in 5 minutes. Con after 17 seconds, and on it goes. 10 wides to 4 in Dublin's favour. They had no wide for the first 43 minutes of the game. I know Mannion dropped a couple short, so it wasn't complete perfection. But geez, it was about as close to it as you get. I thought Kerry's resilience was very impressive. Like, initially when they go 5 points to 1 down, that could be panic stations. Young team, oh my God, this is the real Dublin now we're up against. And they came back into it. Even Merchant's goal, from memory, Merchant's goal feels like the end of the game. But then you look back, and Kerry worked their way back to a single point, which again is very impressive. They got back to a single point in the 45th minute or something like that. They got back to a point. And even at 54 minutes, when O'Brien has that goal chance, there's only a goal in it. So they did really well, but like last quarter, Dublin just strangled it. Second half quite different in that clearly someone must have said at half-time, okay, this is an exhibition game, but it's too much like basketball. We're up and down, you score, we score, you score, we score. So we'll get a few scores and then we'll just keep the ball and make these lads sweat it. And it was just a brilliant performance. Mannion, Con and Kilkenny all with 4 points each. very hard to deal with that.
Considering the questions that were there after the first game, where it was very much defences on top in that first match, and it is probably what made last night's game so memorable, was that the talented players, the creative players, were the ones, like, every time Conor Callaghan gets on the ball, it's just magic. Something's about to happen. Mannion gets the ball in these impossible positions, but you just know he's going to choose the right option every single time. And like, all three of those guys are early to mid-20s. This is the... like, they can spin this all they want of it's a once in a generation. Like, this is the second generation of that once in a generation already. Now, maybe they will point in that, well, what's next? But like, even Owen Merchant, like, coming in and that sort of an impact.
We can class that as a Jim Gavin masterstroke, can't we?
Oh,
a manager that doesn't probably get huge credit in some respects for all those decisions you have to make.
The role of Johnny Cooper, I thought, was a Jim Gavin masterstroke, considering there were a lot of questions about Cooper. Should Cooper start after the way... like, Cooper ran the show. Like, the amount of ball he got in space throughout the game, Cooper.
See, we'll talk to Kieran Donaghy about that. I'm not sure Paul Murphy hanging out in front of the D helped them in that regard, because they had an extra man. It allowed Cooper to get forward and just knit play together and draw a man and lay it off to the sharper shooters. So I don't know. There were too many instances where, for instance, a Mannion or Con or Kilkenny were sweeping a ball over the bar, and Murphy was standing 15 yards away from them. And you kind of think, well, you need to be kind of rushing out, or you need to be doing something more there. That's not really a critique of him. It's more the overall system. He was doing what he was asked to do. We'll see what Kieran Donaghy made of that.
Here, let's hear from some of those involved, starting with Jim Gavin. So it was 118 to 15 points in the end for Dublin, the first ever county to win 5 in a row. Jim Gavin, afterwards, speaking of his pride.
They're all unique, but I suppose when you're playing a team like Kerry that are, really ask questions of the guys over the last 2 days, 2 games. And I know how much it meant to the people of Dublin, I suppose, people who support the team. And there was obviously some great expectation going into it. And I'm just delighted for the players, really, that when there was questions asked of them in both games, that they were able to come up with the answers. And what about reputations? What people on the outside think of them? I think that they really show their character for me over the last 2 games. So first and foremost, you're just so happy for those, and then for for Dublin clubs that and the schools that develop these players. To be honest, when we get them, you just add a bit of polish. But the phenomenal work that goes in at Cumberland Munn School, for those of you who know that set up in Dublin, the teachers who volunteer their time, and the club members and our games promotions officers who who put in 38, 40 hours a week in the communities, which isn't a lot, but they coordinate it all, and to see that kind of to see I suppose the fruits of their labour. This probably doesn't really touch on these players, but certainly the generation coming behind them, it's a vital component of it. And then obviously for as I said, anybody who supports Dublin GAA in Dublin, or the team who might have no connection with any club, but just put a bit of blue out in their garden and just want to support the boys, and then for the supporters themselves who travel with us, both at home and when we're on the road. And it's probably the loudest I've heard them I can recall anyway in a game. So just thrilled for them overall that the guys can back a performance, for their commitment to turn up again today and to spend time with the players and cheer them on. So there's a sense of happiness. I'm just happy in general for them.
Doesn't leave anybody out, that's for sure.
Yeah. Any other reaction? They're at the hospital today, are they?
They are, yeah. We're going to hear in a little while from Jack McCaffrey from Brown Howard. Jamie Moore is down there at the moment. They're just going around, so he's going to be chatting to the lads, and we'll bring you that in a little while. Jason Sherlock, obviously a key figure in all of this as well. He spoke with Mór Trasny Callig about the significance of the win and Jim Gavin's development as manager over the years.
Jason Sherlock, Cohortachus, winning yet another All-Ireland, this time as a manager, as a player, and rather than a player obviously, or as part of the management team. What feels better?
Winning feels better. Unfortunately, I did it once as a player. That's a long time ago. So, but learned a lot of lessons and a lot of harsh lessons as a player. So I'd like to think since I've been involved with Jim, things have gone very well for the team, and we're just every day we're looking to learn, looking to get better. And I think the performance today again was better than the last day, and it was enough to get that victory.
Football obviously has evolved from 1995, which I still think is yesterday, but people keep informing me it's much longer ago than that. Jim Gavin, I'm assuming, has evolved as a person as well. What do you think the difference is between Jim Gavin, the player of the 90s, and Jim Gavin, the manager of today?
Well, sure, as a player you're only kind of thinking about yourself. As a manager you have to obviously take a lot more factors in, and I think to Jim's credit, over the last number of years he's shown he's there to serve, and he's very humble in that regard. I think his style of leadership has given Dublin the environment and the culture to perform, but ultimately it's down to the players. They're the ones that set the standards, they're the ones that bring the motivation, and a manager is nothing without the players.
Are the players of today different compared to when you were playing?
They probably are, but I suppose they're more curious. But as we know, from a sports science point of view and a tactical point of view, players want to know more, and they want to know more information, and I suppose as a management team we want to provide them with as much as we can, and again that's to their credit. They want to learn every day. They have a mindset that they can get better, and again the last 2 weeks it was all about learning from the last day and preparing accordingly, and I suppose that's where we got that performance from today.
Jason Sherlock, very much a key component of that Dublin backroom staff. Interesting watching on the sideline throughout the game. Jim Gavin never stopped talking to the linesmen and the assistant referee, more than I've ever noticed before.
TV picked that up a lot as well, and it's never something you see.
And I thought quite uncharacteristic for him, I thought. Even Tommy Walsh, you'll remember when he came on, first thing he does, he picks the ball up on the right-hand side, goes over, earns a free. Jim Gavin turned to the assistant referee and makes a diving motion, which is very unlike Jim Gavin, but clearly, and all the Dublin supporters you talked to afterwards felt that they were screwed by the referee. Now, they don't care in the end because they won the match, but...
I thought in the first half, Kerry got the best of the referee. Absolutely, no question in my mind. There were a few instances where...
The Kilkenny...
Kerry did very well.
Where he went down and didn't get the free?
Yeah, that was one. There were a few. And even, it's a good job that Fitzsimons wasn't black-carded. Con whistling as he jogs back up the pitch.
Can you imagine that conversation in the dressing room afterwards?
Well,
wow.
I mean, what would have happened from the sideline? So, word comes over. Look, he's after black-carding Fitzsimons. It was actually Con. Do we say nothing? Or do we go and point out what's happened? You got to keep Con on the pitch, but then it's not really fair in Fitzsimons. But no, I thought there were a few. Look, it didn't overly shape the game, but I can see it was very noticeable. Gavin wasn't happy a few times anyway.
We're going to hear from Ross Munnelly and Kieran Donaghy bring you the analysis of the game. We'll bring you Philly McMahon then as well, but we'll hear from Peter Keane. Obviously a very tough day for this Kerry side.
What I would say is that even today, I would be terribly, terribly proud of the lads. They fought with their shoes on to the end, and literally had to be carried out of there. Throughout the year, they've given me the same, and of course it's disappointing. We lost the league final here and we've lost an All-Ireland final here. But look, that happens. But there was a lot of learning. There was, it was a year that even looking at the championship, you take what were the top 6 teams in the championship. Dublin, we drew it. Donegal, we drew it. Tyrone, we beat ourselves. Cork, we had beaten in the Munster Championship. Mayo, we'd beaten in Killarney. So there was certainly no easy route to this, and for a young team, and you'll hope that they learn from that. But by and large, we're reasonably happy, but you're not happy to lose an All-Ireland final. What can you say? They're after winning five All-Irelands in a row. It's a historic day. No matter what was going to happen today, they were either going to win 5 or they were going to not win 5. There was going to be history one way or the other. And look, you would have to compliment them and congratulate them on their achievement. I think the Kerry public, and maybe a lot of you not being from Kerry, but below in Kerry, I think they totally got behind this team. Even between the draw and the replay, the colours that came out and the signs that came out and the support that was there, it was phenomenal. They just really have been captivated by this team, and I suppose the youth of them. And of course, this young lads that were going to make mistakes, and mistakes will be made. But they were backing them in every which way they could. And even there today again, like you said, what are we here? It's 6 o'clock on a Saturday evening, which is a crazy time to be playing an All-Ireland final replay. But they came out. You have people that'll be heading on the road to Carsavine or Valentia Island tonight, and they won't be home till maybe 3 or 4 o'clock. But they came out and they've supported this team in great numbers.
Yeah, that is the Kerry manager, Peter Keane there, understandably disappointed. Lots more reaction to come. As we say, the Dublin players currently making that traditional visit to the children's hospitals around Dublin. Jamie Moore is going to be with them wherever they go throughout the afternoon. We'll bring you Jack McCaffrey, Brian Howard and many more over the course of the afternoon. An analysis coming up shortly from Kieran Donaghy and Ross Munnelly as well. We'll be back at Croke Park across the day as well, because the Dublin ladies footballers will be hoping to emulate Jim Gavin's men in winning the All-Ireland senior title this afternoon. Mick Bowen's side going for 3 in a row at 4 o'clock. Galway, the opposition this time round. They last won the Brendan Martin Cup back in 2004. Dublin captain Sinead O'Hearn knows that their side are overwhelming favourites, but acknowledges that Galway have been improving year on year.
Yeah, hugely. I mean, they've had a lot of underage success over the last number of years and continue to do so. So, they've managed to integrate that in, and they've actually, they've got a really healthy age profile across their squad in terms of, experience and youth and those players coming up. So, they're at that stage now where they're ready to make the breakthrough, and we have to be on our toes to make sure it's not this year.
More Trasany Callig and Cleena O'Connor will be at Croke Park for us throughout the afternoon. There's play already underway, and the first prize of the afternoon has gone to Louth. They have won the ladies' junior final, beating Fermanagh by 3-13 to 2-6 in that game. Next up is the intermediate final at 1:45. That one sees Meath play Tipperary. Now in rugby, some big news coming out of Japan. Ireland head coach Joe Schmidt has given an update on Robbie Henshaw's injury situation. The Leinster centre will miss the opening World Cup game against Scotland next Sunday morning. Schmidt has spoken to the media at the Ireland Team Hotel in Chiba in Japan this morning. Here's what he had to say.
Robbie pulled up with a tightness in his hamstring. He has a scan at 2 p.m. today, and that will give us more information. I think the fact that he pulled up, he wasn't accelerating at the time. We'd be hopeful it's not too bad. Is it likely to rule him out of this week? Yeah, you have to say it is likely, the fact that he did pull up, but we'd be hopeful it's not too bad. And again, I don't want to guess when we'll get the scan this afternoon.
We know Will Addison was left on the bench last night for Ulster. I mean, is there any thoughts about bringing him over? Is he on his way over at the moment?
No, he's not on his way over. That was precautionary, just to make sure that we had fit and able cover should we need a replacement for Robbie.
Joe, it's kind of similar to 4 years ago. I think it was on the 4 years ago, I think on the Eagles return or on the Eagle Gardens for again, at least in the days leading up to it, I think Robbie Henshaw had a similar injury, and it was kind of a similar situation as well, where it leaked out in the media a couple of days before we actually got confirmation. What are your thoughts on that? Like, does that disrupt you at all? And you're thinking that it kind of gets out before you actually address it yourself?
No, it was inevitable that it would, particularly when I spoke to Will, and Will was named to start on the bench, obviously, start the game, and he went onto the bench, and I spoke to Dan McFarlane, and as soon as you make a change like that, when people are watching and keeping an eye on who is playing and who's not playing, that late change obviously signalled something to someone, and we didn't really try to keep it a big secret, because we believe that it would surface pretty quickly anyway. As much as people might have written it into their reports, we had made no decisions on who was going to be playing anywhere for this week. So there's obviously people better informed than I am predicting who was going to play and where. But I can assure you that we had made no decisions, so it's still quite open. We'll see what happens with Robbie, because if it was just a tightening, it could be a cramp. We've travelled a lot. We've tried to be fully rehydrated, fully recovered. But if it is more than that, and we do leave him out this week, we do feel we've got good cover.
Yeah, and we're still waiting to find out if it is more than that. The scan took place about 6 a.m. this morning Irish time, but there's been no word at all from the Irish camp as to just how serious that hamstring injury is for Robbie Henshaw. Scotland, meanwhile, their flanker James Ritchie looks set to miss that game against Ireland next Sunday morning. Ritchie needed surgery on a broken cheekbone suffered in their match with Georgia, and although he has arrived at their base in Japan, he's yet to train with the squad. In boxing, Irish team captain Kurt Walker's through to the last 16 at the World Elite Boxing Championships in Russia. The Lisburn Bantamweight bantamweight secured a 4-1 split decision against Colombian David Avila today. Dublin-based heavyweight Kirill Afanev is due in the ring against Bulgarian opposition around about now in his last 32 bout. Meanwhile, Tyson Fury remains on course for a world heavyweight title rematch with Deontay Wilder after victory over Swede Otto Wallin in Las Vegas. Fury suffered a nasty cut over his eye early in the fight, but he did enough to earn a unanimous points decision. Now in the Premier League, first up at 2 o'clock at the Vitality Stadium, it is Bournemouth against Everton. The Toffees looking for a first away win in the league this season. Seamus Coleman captains Everton in that game. We will be at Vicarage Road later on this afternoon. Full live and exclusive radio commentary of Watford against Arsenal. That one gets underway at 4:30. Stephen Doyle and Stephen Kelly will be there for us. In golf, Sergio Garcia and Callum Shinkwin topping the leaderboard in the final round of the KLM Open, which is just getting underway. Padraig Harrington is 1 under par through his final round. And the Solheim Cup evenly poised heading into today's final day of play at Gleneagles. Europe and USA tied on 8 points apiece after yesterday's foursomes and fourballs. 12 singles matches will decide the outcome. They're just getting out on course now, those 12 singles matches. We'll keep you up to date on that across the afternoon. So, papers coming up at 2 o'clock. We'll have John Green and Declan Lynch alongside Joe for that. We'll be across the Croke Park for the ladies' final throughout the afternoon. Full live coverage of Watford against Arsenal. But up next, we are looking back on the 5 in a row for the Dublin footballers with Kieran Donaghy and Ross Munley.
Off the ball on Newstalk.
Continuing this week on The Hard Shoulder, Ivan has teamed up with Emirates to give you the chance to win the ultimate Rugby World Cup 2019 experience in Japan. All you have to do is tune in to The Hard Shoulder with Ivan weekdays from 4, answer a simple question, and you and a friend could win 2 Emirates flights, 2 nights accommodation, along with 2 tickets to the Rugby